Hope you can hear me. Thanks for inviting me today. I teach courses on public policy and law at MSU. And I've been in the district 23 years. I'm over from Ingham County, and I'm grateful to be invited here because in reality, we're all in this together. It's not just the 8th district, it's the 11th, right, Cheryl? It's the whole state of Michigan, it's the entire nation. And we should all be rallying to this issue. As a lot of you know, in the aftermath of the election, I was trying to think, what should I do? What should I do? And I decided I needed to look more closely at Mike Bishop, and I started studying him, going back through his Twitter feeds, and as a lot of you know, I began to blog about him. And the consequences of that blogging, well, really there's two primary consequences. One is, I knew I disagreed with him on policy issues, but I discovered he's way worse than I knew. And the second consequence, and I think I feel inspired by Cheryl here right now, the second consequence is studying Mike Bishop really made me feel that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Right. And it made me decide that I'm going to run for Congress. Put my name out there and compete with Darlene and compete with Alyssa. And, you know, Darlene and I have met, we talked, we have a lot in common. There are probably ways that, you know, there might be differences between us in experience and maybe some policy positions. But I think on this one, she and I think, are very close together because this is important for everybody and this should be a source of unity for all of us. One of the ways that I was especially disappointed by what I saw about Bishop, and I'm going to be very blunt here, was his dishonesty. Because he provides false reassurances constantly, and healthcare in particular is where it's been obvious. And then he votes and does something entirely different. And one of the issues about how do you work together with people in a bipartisan way? How do you discuss policy issues? You can't do it unless everybody is being honest about where they stand, what their goals are, what they see as the pros and cons. And we're not getting any of that from our representative. And of course, a lot of you know examples of this, as I know all too well. When throughout the 2016 election and into 2017, Bishop constantly tweeted and said, we have a plan, we have a plan, we have a plan. He basically just parrots Paul Ryan. But of course, now we know he didn't have a plan, never had a plan. He also reassured people constantly, pre-existing conditions will be protected. We won't pull the rug out from under anybody. And look what happened. He voted for AHCA, and the next day, in a press release said, see, the House Republicans are acting to provide quality health care for everyone.
That's not right.
When they had just voted knowing that 20 plus million people were going to lose their health coverage. This is very disappointing, and it is a reason that we need a change. The other thing we see, of course, is that he parrots whatever the party line is rather than thinking independently. And I just want to pull out of my pocket here two things that I printed out today. This is a headline from the New York Times today. Obamacare is not collapsing, imploding, or exploding. And the thing about Bishop is, the only thing he ever said about Obamacare is, quote, it's destroying families. He has, as far as I can find, he has never admitted that one person benefited from Obamacare, even though we know millions of people benefited, even though we know he says he was trying to protect elements of Obamacare. Also, you can't find him admitting that one person would lose their coverage in light of everything the Republicans have done. And we know that millions will lose their coverage.
And their lives.
And their lives. We know that from public health research. We know that. In Texas alone, when they didn't expand Medicaid, it was projected they could lose 6,000 to 9,000 people to needless deaths a year. What's that going to look like nationwide when they cut back on this? I'm particularly concerned, as many of you are, about all of this, but also pre-existing conditions. And some of you have heard me speak before about something that happened to our family, and I wouldn't want to have happen to anybody else. Because Mike Bishop claimed after voting with respect to pre-existing conditions. Now think about pre-existing conditions. You either protect people or you invite states to kick them aside. It's one or the other. And people don't know what their state is going to do. And Mike Bishop said, it's okay, it's not going to affect many people. Of course, it shouldn't affect even one. But he said it's okay because we've incentivized them to maintain their health care. And this is the anecdote, I won't tell it at length, but here it is. Incentivizing people does not give them the resources or the situation to make sure they can on their own do it. My sister-in-law, as some of you heard me say, my sister-in-law had to escape from an abusive husband. And that required fleeing the state she was in. And in doing so, she gave up her job and she gave up her health care. And she came back to Michigan and was looking for work, and she's too proud to ask for help. Long story short, she dies of colon cancer at age 44, and we are left to wonder forever if there had been universal health care, if there had even been Obamacare. She died in 2009. Would she have had the money for a colonoscopy that might have saved her life? And how many other people may face that? And obviously, we don't want anyone to go through what we went through, and we have a chance here in talking about healthcare to prevent other people from having this. One of the analogies I use is to think about the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare as a kind of table. Solid, maybe not complete, but a giant step in the right direction. And from the moment it was passed, we can picture the Republicans using every tool possible to try to saw, pry, and hammer the legs off that table. And today we hear in the new Senate bill, with the Cruz amendment, that is going to permit these policies that cover almost nothing so that healthy people can flee, in effect, from the system and greatly increase the cost and burdens to people with healthcare needs. This is sawing through one of the legs on that table. And that's why it's so important people are here today, and that's why it's so important they're protesting. When we think about Medicaid, one of my concerns, and I think we've had two speakers highlight this, but let me just cast it in a way that I think is useful. When we talk about cutting Medicaid and the millions of vulnerable people who will be thrown aside, including people in nursing homes, particularly children, elderly, people with disabilities, it does not need to be discussed in a way as if we make people feel you have to care about others. We don't have to make people feel that way, because cutting Medicaid, as others have said, affects everyone. It affects you, whoever you are, with the burdens that will become on overcrowded emergency rooms, with rural hospitals closing, with the fact that you don't know what's going to happen to you in life. I have an elderly, extended family relative who went in for scheduled knee surgery, and due to a catastrophic infection, lost other body parts and became permanently disabled and needed care, never thought would need that care. And yet you end up in a nursing home and you don't have the resources, you've gotten rid of all your assets over time. It needs to be there for everybody. Let me make one final point that I think is important and that we don't think about enough. We know that Republicans talk about we're helping healthcare, but we also see they've made efforts to prioritize cutting taxes for the wealthy without caring about the impact. So they don't tell us the truth about that. But think about this. Think about how many dozens of countries in the world provide provide universal health care, and they spend less per person, and they get much better health outcomes. Think about that. So to me, it's almost as if an implicit theme for Republicans is this. It's as if they're saying, we're the United States, we can't do that. All these other countries are doing it, and they're saying to us, we're the United States, we can't do that. I went to Michigan public schools. I don't know what Mike Bishop learned in school, but I know what I learned. I know that this is the can-do country. I know this is the can-do state, where Henry Ford developed the means of mass production, where the UAW showed the world how labor and management can work together to build the middle class. This should be the can-do country. So my point is this. This is the orientation we ought to have. This is what I would want to take to Congress, and I know this is what Darlene would want to take to Congress too. Is you don't go there and say, we're the United States, we can't do that. You go there and say, we're the United States, and we will show the world how it's done.
That's right.
We will protect our people. So thank you for listening. Thank you for all you do, because I know many of your names from Facebook Indivisible. I have great admiration for all the work you're doing. And hopefully, slow, uphill, underdog battle perhaps at the moment. But 2018 is coming. We have an opportunity to flip things around. Let's do it.
Yes.